focus. All right there. I want to talk about the 1992 Belgian student film Man Bites Dog. I think the original title in the French is It Happened Near Your Neighbourhood. This movie, black and white, subtitled if you're watching it in English, was shot on a budget of about 10,000 English, next to nothing, a shoestring budget, and went on to win loads of awards, and according to some people it's now a cult classic. If you don't know Man Bites Dog, it presents itself as a documentary. There's a film crew and they are following the goings on, the everyday life of a serial killer called Ben, who is played by one of the people that made the film, as are the documentary team in the movie. Now, I don't want to do a traditional film analysis of Man Bites Dog, not because that hasn't got any value, but because it's been done several times already and pretty well as well. But I want to talk about it in view of what I've been doing in the last few videos in terms of laughter tracks, in terms of instructions, in terms of how media tends to tell us how to respond and tends to confuse the presented content with this instruction, and therefore the message kind of gets blurred between the two. Because Man Bites Dog hasn't got a laughter track. Man Bites Dog has barely got a soundtrack. I mean, it's there. But the incredible thing about watching this absolutely horrific story of a serial killer, and the death count is high, you know, there's a rape there, and that's a very hard to watch scene. The opening scene is just this woman walking down, she's on a train, she just walks past him, he sticks a rope round her neck and slowly, painfully garrots her to death. And the thing is, it's a comedy. The movie's a comedy. I mean, this is what's amazing about Man Bites Dog. Why is it a comedy? Why is seeing murders and rapes and there's one scene where he's sitting on the sofa with this old woman. She's got heart problems, and rather than just shoot her, which is his usual method, he just screams at her in such a way that it brings on a heart attack, and he just sort of coldly explains to the camera how you got to mix it up a bit. And the reason it's a comedy is because it's void of instruction. The usual frames of reference and instruction that media provides us with, therefore pre-interpreting the meaning of what's being represented, are absent. And so the only thing we have got left is laughter. Now, you could argue there's a slight amount of instruction because the Ben, the serial killer, is frequently laughing. But you know that we've seen plenty of horror films where the protagonist is laughing and we're not laughing along with him. So I think perhaps. But essentially, we're not given instruction. We're given an ability to scapegoat our relationship with media. You know, that throughout Man Bites Dog itself, I mean, I know it's a name made for the British audience, but it comes from the media. It's a media saying in which a story that's unusual will make the news rather than a story that's commonplace, even if the two have the same consequences. And the problem with that is because media will continually, bombard us with images and stories of the unusual, we build up an artificial understanding of our environment, because the unusual becomes commonplace, and the commonplace disappears from our understanding of a world which is frequently, thankfully, regularly commonplace. Man Bites Dog, I mean, it's kind of hard to watch for a comedy. There are certain scenes in it where I'm just not having it. I'm just not happy with it. And I think that's one of the strengths of it, because at the same time as it's, oh, come on. And it's really like that. No. That's how I am when I watch it. But at the same time, in a couple of minutes, you'll be absolutely cracking up at a murder and things that are said around the murder. And it reminds me of that real sort of trite postmodern analysis of like the late 80s, where, you know, we'll take our glossy Sunday magazine, and on the one page it's got starving kids in Africa, on the facing page it's got Olympic golds, on the next page it's got a war going off in Beirut, and, you know, we'll take all of this stuff in one go as leisure, as entertainment. A Man Bites Dog really hits the nail on the head with that, and it does so in that lack of instruction, in that lack of translation. You've heard me talk before in many videos about our culture being pre-digested as baby food, where they not only produce the culture, but they produce the meaning, they produce the interpretation, the translation. You know, you don't need teeth to eat modern popular culture. It's already been chewed for you. A Man Bites Dog goes against that. It frees you of interpretation, and yet at the same time it traps you in the need to provide meaning. You know, with any piece of literature, any movie, any piece of writing, any creative produce, for an actual engagement in meaning, an actual engagement in the artist's production, you have to actively engage in the production of meaning. You have to understand it on a deeper, meaningful, significant, socially relevant way. You have to invest your own memories, your own understanding of the world, your own emotions, your own loves, your own lives, your own fears. You have to put them in it and make out of the mixture of the two the presented object and your own understanding of the world, and mix them together, fill in the gaps, and that way you'll engage with it on a deeper psychological level, rather than just being a passive consumer of the bland, of the pointless, of the baby food culture that's been already eaten for you. So Man Bites Dog comes out of this as a comedy, and it does that because, due to the lack of instruction, due to the lack of interpretation, what else can you do? And what are you laughing at? Are you laughing at murder? Are you laughing at rape? Are you laughing at a film crew? No. You're laughing at the process of media. You're looking at you're laughing at the world we inhabit, where media pitifully explains to us the story it's telling us, before we've even had a chance to think about it ourselves. We're laughing at the petty situation we find ourselves in, where we look to the news to understand the world. And yet, probably the biggest story is that the news never even attempted to do that.
Robe dans l'enfer des villes, à mon regard, tu te dis, oh, c'est bien, tu es vraiment le plus...
Sweet.